Hello, welcome. In this lecture, we are going to finally start with the salient features of the Constitution. All right. Up till now, all the chapters that we did, we discussed the historical background. We discussed the emphasis of the British effect on our polity. We discussed how British came to India as traders and gradually developed their power. They became territorial. They attained the status of territorial power, and later they ruled us. They ruled us, and this stopped in the year 1947, right? And in the 1950, we are, the constitution came into force. So this is just the background, a really short background of all that we have discussed up till now. But from this lecture onwards, we're going to start with discussing the salient features of the constitution. Okay, so let's read a little bit about constitution. You see, the Constitution of India, I can say, is unique in its spirit and its content, right? Although it has been borrowed, although it has been borrowed, from constitutions of the various countries. So, borrowed in the sense that whatever good that, the drafting committee members, for instance, Ambedkar says that yes, there's no denying that we have heavily borrowed from the constitutions of other countries, but what's the harm in borrowing something which is good, which is working for that nation, and similarly, we've taken it in our constitution too, right? So yes, it has been borrowed from a number of countries. It has the salient features of, of the constitutions of different countries that we have taken in ours, right? But you need to also understand at the same point that at the outset, at the outset of the constitution, that is in the year 26th November 1949, when it was adopted, okay, we have 8 schedules, right? And we had close to, I guess, 400 articles. All right. So this is what we had. Okay. But you see, starting from this 26th of November 1949 up till now, okay, our constitution has undergone a lot many changes, right? Some of the substantial amendments, for instance, are, you see, the seventh, the 42nd, the 44th, then the 73rd, 74th, and the 97th, and lastly the 101st. You see, these amendments are extremely important. We'll be discussing the important amendments that have come in the Constitution in a separate lecture extensively, but since I'm mentioning these here, I'll quickly tell them to you what they deal with and what are they all about. You see, in the 7th Constitution amendment in the year 1956, what happened was that, you see, there were the bifurcation of states. There was a bifurcation of territories basically into four groups. Okay, this was rejected. So what we had by the seventh amendment was that we had now states and we had the union territories, right? We'll discuss this as and when we come to the relevant chapter. I'm just giving you a, you know, I'm just giving you an understanding for the time being, that you understand that the constitution that was adopted in the year 1949, it has gone, a substantial amount of change, and some of these changes, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are extremely important. You see, with this 101st, we got what? GST, right? With the 97th Amendment, we had the municipalities, they got the constitutional status. Municipalities. Then the 94th one was, the cooperatives. The municipalities was 74th, 97 was the cooperatives. Then 73rd was the Panchayati Raj institutions, right? The local level governments. So you see, the 73 and 74, these are dealing with local level governments. Okay. Then the 42nd, this 42nd is extremely important. You see, 42nd, we can have a separate lecture on the 42nd, constitutional amendment. Why? Because you see, this is important to such an extent that it was called the mini constitution. You know, there were a lot of changes that were brought in this 42nd constitutional amendment, and all the changes that were brought in these 42nd amendment, most of them were, called back. So the 44th is the correction in a way of the 42nd. Okay, is this clear? To give you an example, for instance, the Lok Sabha's tenure was increased from 5 years to 6 years, right? And this was repealed here. We'll be discussing the 42nd and the 44th. These two are extremely important. We'll be discussing 73rd and 74th. We'll be discussing 7th. So what I mean to say is that all of these will be discussed as and when we are talking about the relevant chapter under them, right? For the time being, I hope you've understood that. You see, from this, what you can understand is that the Constitution of India is a living text. It is not something that we adopted in the year you know, in the year 1949 and it came into effect in the year 1950. It's a text which is living, which is dealing with changes, which is imbibing changes. Okay, it is a living text in that sense, right? So I hope this point is clear.